Hey, why don't you come on a quick road trip with us? We're moving to Edmonton this summer to plant a church, and the school that we think our high schoolers will go to was putting on a musical. And since drama is something my kids will likely get involved with, I thought it would be really fun for us to get eyes on the school and experience what the drama productions there are like. New things are less scary when you know what to expect. So we hit the road after my kids got home from school, and Wyatt drove for the first half of the trip, which gave me time to do some reading. We stayed with my mother-in-law, and I like to start the day with a workout. So after some time in the gym, I came back to get ready for the day. I showered, read my Bible, and we found some breakfast. And it was so quiet while we were eating. It was kind of unnervingly quiet. I'm used to Felix and Janie talking my ear off at home, and this was it was quiet. First things first, let's go get some coffee. Square One is one of our favorite coffee shops in Edmonton, so that's where we went. I wanted to get some coffee beans to take home, but unfortunately the digital payment system was down and I only had enough cash for treats and some coffee, but at least we could get that. Bailey got a cinnamon knot, Wyatt got a strawberry white chocolate muffin, and they both let me taste theirs and they're really good. My drink of choice is always an Americano misto, which is espresso, hot water, and steamed milk. I prefer it to a latte just because it's got less milk in it. I find the amount of milk in a latte to be a little too rich. And I prefer the misto to a regular Americano with cream because the milk gives it some protein. Thankfully, we could still get food even though the payment system was down, and the girl behind the counter did a really good job keeping her cool under all of that stress. Then we headed out to do some driving around the neighborhoods that we're looking at. We don't know exactly where we're aiming to move, but we know it's going to be somewhere on the west side, at least that's what we think. So when we're in town, we like to spend some time driving around, praying that Jesus would lead us and help us to discern where he wants us to move. Some of these neighborhoods feel like an obvious no, and others seem like possibilities. So yeah, we're just excited to see what God provides for us. If you've ever moved a long distance, I'd love to hear any tips you have in the comments. I've never lived anywhere beyond like a 20-kilometer radius, so moving provinces is going to be a big change. Then we headed to IKEA. We met my mother-in-law here for lunch. I got Swedish meatballs, but I didn't want fries or mashed potatoes. So I asked the guy if I could sub mixed veggies from the veggie balls plate, and it was really good. I love that lingonberry sauce with the meatballs. Usually I like to walk through the entire store, but I was not interested in buying much since we're moving, so we didn't spend very much time shopping afterward. I made a stop in the kids area to see what they had, and I picked up this cute little paper craft thing for Felix and Janie. I'm going to save it until our house is sold since I don't need more clutter right now, but I think it'll be a good way for them to occupy their time, and then we can just throw it in the recycling bin when we're done with it. And I also grabbed something for a friend, and then we made a stop at the food store at the end for some chocolate and cookies and their Ziploc bags. They're really good quality, so when I can, I prefer to get those as opposed to the actual Ziploc brand. This will likely go down in history as my cheapest trip to IKEA ever. But we're going to be living close to one soon, so there may be a lot more inexpensive trips to IKEA in my future. You don't see my kids much on most of my videos, but they were really good sports about being on camera this time around. Our next stop was Value Village to do a little thrifting. Bailey headed for the clothes. I don't know where Wyatt went, and I'm going straight for the books. I'm trying to get rid of books before we move, but I can't resist cookbooks. My mom was always reading cookbooks when I was a kid, and I guess I must have gotten my love for them from her. I found this church suppers recipe book. I haven't actually had time to take a really good look at it yet, but just as I was flipping through it here in the store, the thing that sold me on it was the fact that the recipe sizes were so big. Most recipes I find serve a max of 6 to 8 people, and sometimes you can scale that up, but sometimes it just doesn't work to make it larger. In this book, the smallest amount of servings I saw in any recipe was 8, and sometimes up to 20. That spoke to me. With having a family of 8 and wanting to get better at having people in our home for meals, I'd love to find some good crowd-pleasing recipes, so I'm hoping I find a few winners in here at least. I also got this Usborne 100 Things to Know About Food book, and I knew Felix would love this. He loves random bits of trivia, and he's already begging me to read it to him nearly every day. He has this new love for eating carrots because we read about carrots being good for your eyes because they have a lot of vitamin A. And then we read about simple and complex sugars, giving you short bursts of energy versus sustained energy. And then I heard him talking about wanting to eat sugar so he could have a sugar crash. So, I don't know. Carrots, candy, you win some, you lose some. Then I headed to the shoe section. I wear barefoot shoes, and I'm always curious if I'll find something barefoot friendly for a good price, and I never do until today. Behold, a pair of Vibram 5-finger dress shoes. What? Oh, I've always wondered if I'd be willing to go this far and wear the 5-finger shoes. The answer is no. They were too weird. I couldn't do it. Barefoot shoes don't have to look weird, you guys. Time to go look for some sweaters. Now that I have a teenage daughter, I'm keenly aware that I'm getting older. I know I used to love finding weird things at the thrift store, like dinosaur jeans. Bailey thought they were fantastic, but didn't get them because she didn't think she'd really wear them. And I was making a weird face about them, and she's like, wouldn't you have thought they were awesome when you were my age? Yes, I would have. I didn't get this sweater. The pocket was weirdly off-center. The girls on the right just spotted the dinosaur jeans, and one of them is most definitely buying them. I sort of regret not buying this purple sweater, now that I see it on me from this view. Oh well, it's fine. Bailey found this sweet Garfield sweatshirt, and that's the end of our thrift haul. Time for afternoon coffee, so we went back to another Square One location, big surprise. This time the payment system was working, so I could stock up on beans. Clay and I drink regular coffee in the morning and usually decaf in the afternoon, so I got 2 bags of decaf and 1 regular. We have a coffee subscription that gets delivered every month, which is not decaf, so that's why I'm stocking up on the decaf now, because these Anecdote Coffee Roasters beans are some of the best decaf we've had. And then from here, we're heading to meet up with my father-in-law for supper. We picked up donaires and ate at his place, and it was delicious. Before I met Clay, I had never had a donaire. I didn't know what it was, but Halifax-style donaires are pretty popular in Edmonton. I used to think it was ridiculous how much meat was in them, and now I love them. Then after supper, we hit the road again. For the whole reason we came here, we're on our way to see Shrek, the musical. Bailey and Wyatt were both in the musical at their school this year, and they had so much fun doing that. So I was really hopeful that seeing the school they'll be going to and experiencing a production there would give them a good taste for what the future has in store, and also hoping that it wouldn't be a total flop and leave a bad taste in their mouth. Doing this vlog is a totally different format than I've tried before with my videos. So if you're enjoying hanging out with us, would you just give this video a quick like? Thank you. It was so cold and we had to wait outside for a few minutes because the lobby here was already packed with people. But they let us in pretty quickly after. The play was so well done. The acting and singing were so good. The set design, the tech, and the costumes were really impressive. I think the kids had a great time and are feeling a little more at ease about transitioning into a new school. The thing that took me by surprise was just how small this theater space is. And the next morning I was up before the sun so I could get a run on the treadmill before we hit the road. My body does not do good with sitting for long periods of time, so before being in the car for 6 hours, I wanted to get some movement. One thing I like about running is that you can do it anywhere. The only equipment you need is a pair of shoes. I used to get injured every time I'd try learning to run, and it wasn't until I switched to barefoot shoes and changed my stride to a midfoot instead of a heel strike that I've made progress in my ability to run. I was a lot faster last year at this time than I am now, but I'm still moving, and that's the point. I exercise for the sake of long-term health, not short-term gains. I've had seasons with more energy, seasons with less, but movement is not negotiable for me. I have chronic pain, and being intentional about movement isn't a cure-all, but I do feel better when I'm actively pursuing movement in my life compared to when I'm not. So having good eating habits plays a big part in how I feel too, but that's a topic for another day. We had breakfast with my in-laws at Denny's, And then we were on the road just after 8 a.m. in an effort to not get storm stayed halfway home. Wyatt drove the first half and then we traded. He's a really good driver, but I wanted to be in the driver's seat for the sketchier part of the drive since I do have more experience. While we were driving home, my parents were heading west, and so we were keeping our eyes peeled for their vehicle on the highway. I've never realized how many white trucks are on the road until I was trying to find one particular one. But I spotted my dad, so here I am, giving him a wave as we cross paths on our road trip. The last hour and a half was the worst of the visibility issues. The storm was just starting to ramp up at this point, so you can see that the snow is blowing a bit. If we'd had to stop and get a hotel somewhere, I would have been safe, I promise. But I really wanted to get home, if at all possible, because the storm brought so much snow that it might have been a few days before we were actually able to get home if we hadn't gotten home this day. There's an iconic prairie elevator for you. There aren't very many of those left. And now we're driving down our street. We made it. Thanks for hanging out with us. I'll see you again soon.